All right, well, welcome everybody. Appreciate you coming out to Lit Tech. At least you signed up for something. Hopefully that you will enjoy. We are learning all about why blended learning even matters as we learn more about technology and education and merging, and there's all of these people that tell us what they think we're supposed to do, and then it comes down, and one of those things that's going to be coming down that pipeline is more about blended learning. So why not get a jump start and figure out what it is and how we can actually incorporate it into our classrooms. So my goal hopefully is that you can take something from today and be excited about trying it in your classroom. So this is for K-12, blended learning is for everybody. So hopefully you'll feel that way as well. Okay, so we are going to discover what blended learning is and strategies to implement blended learning in the classroom setting with Canvas integration, as that is our county's platform. And our job is to discuss classroom strategies to support blended learning. It's not just a one size, just here, we're going to throw it together. There are strategies, and we do have supports because it's not just a, here, this is going to be my fix-all for education, and this is what I'm going to do in my room. It supports what we already do. Instead of just kind of throwing everything that we do away, it's supporting what we already have going on in our classroom. And complete one discussion post offering suggestions for Canvas integration with blended learning, and that'll be on Canvas later. So I'm Trisha Garris. I teach 8th grade here, math and science out in the trailer back there. So if y'all need anything, just let me know. I'm always open to suggestions and helping anybody, and very excited about this new journey. So we are going to discuss what blended learning is, what it's not, and how we can integrate this new pedagogy in Canvas, which is what we already use. Okay. So first we're going to look at what is it. Has anyone heard of blended learning before? Yay! Score! Y'all are my favorites. All right, so let's look at it. What is it? Well, it does have to do with some online integration. And so this is going to look different in everybody's classroom because my students' online experience is going to be very different from my 8-year-old child's online experience, very different from a preschooler's online experience. And we have to make sure that we're doing this leveled and appropriate for them. It does control the time, pacing, what they do, the path that they're taking in their own individual learning. So it's not a, here, you're going to get the same thing as what you're going to get is what you're going to get. Okay? They have control and you have control over when they get information. And it doesn't always have to be at the same time the next person is. So that's one of the best things that I love about it. And the modalities along the student's path are connected, and it really helps enhance their learning process. It's not just a, oh, we're going to do this activity because it's really super cute. Okay, it's really there to enhance what they're learning and what our content is. Okay. There are 7 basic models for how you can do this. And that's also one of my favorite things because you can integrate it however you want to. I have a couple different ones that I like. I have 3 specific ones. So my favorite is the station rotation. I used that a lot last year, especially with our reduced class sizes, and a lot the year before. This year, I'm not. This year, I'm doing more of the flexed and individual. And that's okay for it to look different. I have different kids that have different needs this year. But it's still a blended learning. So station rotation is literally kind of what you think of when you think of elementary school. How you have reading groups and then they have the center and they go to the math center or they do an individual reading. My son comes home, he's so excited about all the centers that they do. Okay. Lab rotation is the same as the station except you have an actual lab classroom, which us being one-to-one, we don't really have too many of those. But if the students went to a physical classroom lab with computers, that would be a lab rotation. Individual rotation is exactly what it sounds like. It's where each individual person does their own activities. The flipped classroom is something that has been very popular the last 5 to 8 years. It's where they would go home, watch a video, you come back and do the activities in class. The flex, I like, it's literally where you're flexible and so are they. They pretty much get a list of choices that you make that you want them to do, and they choose their path. You might give them things that they have to do, and then choices that they can do, and they work through it. And then you're there more as a support for them through their learning. So it may look like that you have a teacher station set up, and that, hey, I need help with this. And so everyone that needs help with that activity is there at your teacher station, while everyone else is working on their own assignment. A la carte is basically where you're picking and choosing, and so are they. Instead of having a list of assignments that they have to do, maybe you take your whole entire content for a unit, and maybe they have to pick 5 to complete, instead of having different ones. And the enrichment virtual is literally where they would go home and you'd have an online activity or a video, and it's more for enrichment of what you're doing in your classroom. Okay. So that's some different models. So I want you to take just a minute and think about, of those, think about what you've already done in the classroom, how you already have your setup. What do you think would fit kind of more seamlessly right into your room? Is it stations? Is it having the students work individually? Is it choice with the a la carte? How do you feel? Okay, got it in your brain? All right, we're gonna try this out. I've never done this before, but we're gonna try it. So if you can scan the QR code, or if you will go to menti.com and put in that code, and there's a nice little question there for you asking which type you would be most likely to try. So this is one type of blended learning strategy. You heard some information, you thought about it, you're going to respond via an online platform. I really like QR codes, especially with my students. If you need help with more QR code stuff, let me know, because they are fantastic to use. Anyone there? Let's see. And it works! You're always nervous the first time, right? Seeing if it's really going to do like it's supposed to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. So station, flex, individual, flip. Yeah, station, flex, and individual are my favorites. I just feel like just kind of K-12, just kind of across the board, they really lend itself to classroom integration a little bit easier than some of the other models. Yes, it worked. It's always awesome. And so now that we talked about what it is, we do want to kind of look at the other direction and say what it's not. Because a lot of people put technology in and they say, hey, I'm doing blended learning. We've got computers, we've got iPads, we're online. It's got to be blended. But that's not always the case. You can do stuff with technology and it not be blended learning. So it is not just using the iPad or the Chromebook. Okay. It's not just saying, hey, we're doing this online activity. We're good to go. It is not everyone turning in the same assignment at the same exact time. And that's one of the great things about blended learning is that the kids can have choice, that you can assign leveled activities so that they may do something similar, but that everyone's can be different. That you can do groups in Canvas and assign different activities to different groups of kids. And so maybe this group is working together and this group is working together Maybe this group has 2 weeks to do it and this one has a week because they're different activities. That's okay. And just really opening up that dialogue with the students to support that kind of mind shift. Because not only do we have to shift our mind, but they would have to shift their mind as well, because it's not something normal school does. And it's not just direct instruction with the internet. Hey, it's not, hey, we're going to go and look through this website together. So just a little graphic. Hey, so blended learning versus tech-rich instruction. We have a lot of tech-rich instruction. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we can go that one step further and make it more enriching for our students and more fun for all of us by just taking that little extra step. Okay. And there's lots of links in there that y'all can go to and find lots of really good resources for how to do all that. Okay. So examples of what it might be. This is what my students did last year. It's called a playlist. So I took all of our activities for our entire module and broke it down into, this is what the activity is, these are the directions you need to do, any notes that I had to give, and the date that you need to complete it by. You can choose, you can do lesson 2 before you do lesson 1. That's up to you. It just needs to be due on those dates. And then they had a check sheet to focus on. And then here, this is what my students have done this year. They had their task from Canvas, and they had to choose 3 for our module, and then they had to turn them in. As they turned them in, they wrote that they turned them in on what day, because they had until the end of the module to do it. And so those were enriching activities. They got their basic information in class, and then that was their enriching activities. So they weren't all working on the same thing. They didn't all turn it in at the same time. It was based on what they picked. And the student voice that they were able to do, and that they would focus more because it's something they chose. It really helps increase engagement, and it helps increase them wanting to learn and go that extra mile to look up something different. Oh, I found this. Can I also look at that? Sure. You know, you never know what they're going to find and where they're going to go. Okay. So there's those. And then what it's not. It's not here, click on this link, watch this video, and tell me a summary. I mean, that's a tech-rich instruction. You watched a technical video. You summarized using tech. Now, if we wanted to change that into more of a blended learning, now that you've seen this video, identify a change that you could make. Identify a next step. What could you create? Just taking that one step further to make it a little bit more enriching turns it into blended learning versus just tech-rich instruction. So, now that we've looked at what it is and what it's not, we're going to do another little Menti. So we have a QR code or a new Menti.com code. So now that we've looked at what it is and what it's not, we want to look at, do you feel like you would try blended learning in your classroom? So now that we can tell a little bit about the difference of what it is and what it isn't. So not the one that came up. Nope. Yes. Did that one not work? That's fun. Score. Well, technology doesn't always work. Okay. So, thumbs up, thumbs down. Yes, no, or to the side if you're undecided. So thumbs up, yes, you would look forward to trying it. Hey, you're all my favorite people. You really like it. Okay. And so that's what we do in our classrooms too, right? Sometimes technology doesn't work. We figure out something else. Okay. One thing, physical things never fail. Technology does. And our kids need to see that too. That, hey, we're not perfect. Technology's not perfect. You're not perfect. But this is how we adapt and go with the flow. Okay. Maybe the next one will work. We got one more. We'll give it one more chance. So now that we've figured out what blended learning is and what it's not, how do we take this and integrate it into Canvas and what we already use? Like, that's the big bang for the buck. Okay. Well, think about your classroom, your routine, what you already do to support your students. Remember that this is going to look different in every classroom. Your students might do a menu board, or they might not. You might have stations with folders, and that their work is in the folder, and that they have to use and manipulate the technology to help them with that folder work. But that they get a choice on which activity they're doing instead of everyone doing the same one. Okay, so it's going to look different in everyone's room. My favorite thing is that there are lots of different submission options in Canvas that help us with that. One of my favorite activities I did last year during COVID when we were out virtual was we were doing parallel and perpendicular lines. And I had my students take a picture and submit it. People took their necklaces and made angles. They took pictures of windows. They went to parking lots. What they came up with was phenomenal. And they think outside the box all the time, but you have to give them the opportunity to show you what they can do. And this does that. When you do an online, they can do a text entry, which is the text box. They can submit a website. If they're using Canva, and if you're going to 101 Tools, then she's going to talk about Canva. It's phenomenal. And instead of submitting a whole presentation, they can send you the URL for you to view it. Media recordings. They can just simply record their voice or record a video of them answering something. They don't even have to write or draw anything. Think about the use for that. You could do a group project and they're recording and they do props. They ask you if they can do all kinds of things. Okay, they can really get into it. Student annotation isn't one that I'm as familiar with. It is newer than the other options. It just came out, I think, within the past year. But we are going to see an example. It's really cool because you can write on PDFs, you can write on Word documents, you can write on a picture, and they can annotate it. And a file upload is anything. So those are the online options. External tool, if you're going to use Google Drive, then you would do it as an external tool. And it makes them a copy and they edit it and they just submit it back. So it makes that part really easy. So like for instance, my son, he's really good with Google Slides. And so he would manipulate Google Slides. What you got?
Just if you do use the file uploads, be careful. I would suggest that you only use JPEGs and some specific file types, because if your kids have the new iPhone, it tries to upload to the
Cloud?
No, not the cloud, but it's a new file type. It's like it's like RAW or something, and you can't see it in the in Canvas. Canvas won't like load it in the grader. You can download it and still view it, but it's such a pain in the butt.
That is a pain.
I make my kids do JPEGs still, so they have to either convert it on their own or get their phone to convert it before they send it in.
Gotcha.
It hasn't really been a huge option here, or a huge issue here, but because the iPads will just do it, but if they have the new iPhone, it'll do the wrong file type.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah,
I was on my way.
If you do file uploads, I would just change it so that it can only submit specific ones.
And you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can restrict the different files. So like most of the time we do like pick PDFs and JPEGs.
JPEG and PNG.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then the kids, they adapt pretty good to that. You can do no submission, meaning that they're not actually submitting anything to you. Maybe it's just an activity that you want them to do to learn more, because not everything has to be graded or submitted in. It's just nice for them to learn something. online on paper. So a lot of my students, if they did a poster and they did it on paper, then they wouldn't have anything to turn in. It's just on paper. Or the external tool, which is through the Google Drive. So we have lots of options to support our students in this blended learning pathway of how they can be creative. And that's one of the best things, is that we want them to be able to be creative. They're going to do. I totally fell into that trap, and I set my upload to a file upload. Well, one of my girls did a website URL instead because she was doing Canva, and she couldn't send me the presentation because she was trying to do it as a URL. And so I restricted her on her creativity. So she ended up just emailing me the link, and no big deal. But that really taught me a lot about choosing what they're submitting. So I had a really big learning moment. Okay. So let's just do this. Okay. So Menti.com, and there's a 7577-9486. So if you're thinking about your classroom, what would be one step or one thing that you think you could go do in your classroom to make this step toward blended learning? What would you do to kind of make a bigger step towards blended learning?
What was the code?
7577-9486.
What's the word? Like, where are we at? www.
Menti.com, MENTI.com.
And can you say it again?
Absolutely. 7577-9486. Because then through here it should work. So maybe it's that you take a station that you already do and take that more enriching step. Maybe it's that you're doing a novel and you have them record a response to a character, saying what you think is going to happen next. Maybe it's that they model some scientific process and record a video or take a picture of the ending. Let's see. Science, social studies. Maybe it's that they act out a certain, scene from history, or that they're creating a speech as if they were a historical character. So they would take pictures of a math concept. I've had my students make a poster of where they see the math concept in real life. Let's see, what's another, like equations. We did this king crab fisherman and how much they make, how much they spend for the fuel, how much the crabs, cost. What would you have to pull in for the crabs to offset the cost of the boat and the fuel? And they had to create the linear equation for it. Let's see. What else would y'all do? Geometry. There's a ton, whether it's that they are, instead of drawing and writing out the steps to solve, they can record it. Then you get a lot of that math language. Can you explain mathematically what to do versus writing out those steps? Or you can give them an equation solved and then have them explain or draw a picture to represent I can come up with all kinds of math stuff. Not so good at language arts, though. Just go ahead and put that out there for you. So options to pick, provide choices for students to demonstrate mastery. Yeah, because everything doesn't have to be some 20-question test. You know, if they can answer it in 7 questions, or if they can draw me a picture, if you can record and explain it, it's just as good. You know, lots of choices, because I'm sorry, we've had a job for a really long time, and I've never had to answer a 20-question test, you know, last week. You know, we demonstrate what we know by doing it. Same way they're going to in several years. So you start with a unit, project, or content theme. Yes! One lesson at a time. Okay. Students to choose how they present or share. Yeah, like I have one student that particularly doesn't like to share in front of people like this, but she totally went home and recorded her presentation and we could play it. Like she had her back turned, she didn't even look at the recorder, but she did it. Super proud. Head first. That's sometimes the easiest way to go. You just go ahead and jump in and figure it out as we're swimming. Hey, anything you need, let me know. Students listen to a story and use seesaw to sequence pictures to show the beginning, middle, and end. Yes! Working out the equations instead of writing out the steps. Record and give them the model to represent it. Perfect. Okay. And so hopefully, you know, as we're connecting, then we can share more strategies with each other in the months to come and be able to be a support for each other so we can take this journey together. Okay. So, but it gives you a starting place, right? A jumping off. Okay. So, all right, there's that code. All right, so my favorite part is that I made a Canvas whole Canvas course for y'all. Okay. So you can either go to the gcsdigital.instructor blah blah blah, or you can do the QR code, and it is supposed to have you join the Canvas course. It is supposed to have you join the Canvas course Blended Learning. I think Mr. Lofton uploaded the presentation to Sched, so there's all the resources and the credits for where everything came so that you can check that out. But once you sign in, this is what you should be seeing in this Canvas course. So welcome to Blended Learning. Okay, it has my email and times that I'm available if you need anything. What you got? You are good.
Sorry.
Oh, no, ma'am, you are just fine.
I'm a little slow today.
Oh, honey. I'm slow
because
every day. And
All
then
right.
AAC7YB. Yeah, never. I'm slow every day.
It says I can't find the login page.
Oh, no.
I don't know. Did I type it right? I don't think I spelled that right. Or am I? D-I-G-I-T.
IAL instead of.
Oh, no.
There we go.
Instructure.com.
Enroll/AAC7YB. Yes.
All right. So,
And then you'll hit enroll in course. And go to. Perfect. Okay. So if you are elementary, one person that I really recommend, her name is Susie Lawley, and she has tons of videos. She has a blog. She will send you emails. She does this whole Canvas for Littles series, and it is really all about how to do Canvas with K5. And she even breaks it down a little bit to like K3 and then 4 or 5. She is phenomenal and fantastic. So if you need some other elementary Canvas resources, she is the one to go to. She is a huge guru in all things Canvas. And I take a lot of her stuff and adapt it for middle school because they're really just big kids. So one of her things is to use images instead of a bunch of words. So one thing is that instead of telling you what the modules are, they're just a bunch of numbers. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's resources. Now, of course, you can always go to the modules link, and it shows you all of the modules as well. Or if you click on one, it will take you to that module. And so all you do is link it to that module name for it to do that. Okay. So particular for you to kind of play around with, you have one module on just how to use PDFs. You have a module all about Google Drive integration. You have a module all about other apps that can link with Canvas. So whether that's Big Ideas, there's a ton of static links for math, Flipgrid, Desmos, CK12 is a free site that has a lot of resources, so you can link CK12 information. Quizlets, you can embed them. Mosaic is ScoopPad for math and ELA, and app integrations. And then you have submission options, whether it's a text entry or a website URL, a media recording, student annotations, and doing file uploads, and then resources. So this is really for you just to be able to play around and see what your student sees. Because a lot of times we'll assign something, but then I may not know what it really looks like to submit that and what options that really gives me. So this is really built for you to be able to play around and say, I wonder what that looks like. Here you go. So I would like for y'all to be able to kind of take the time, ask questions if you need to, and just kind of play with it and see what you think. So this is really built to be a resource for you to help in any way, hopefully it can. If there's anything you'd ever like added to it, just let me know and I'll throw it up there. That way you can always have access to whatever you need. Okay. So any big questions? I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've got stuff that you can take with you and integrate. And I'm always here if you need anything. So I appreciate y'all coming out.
Thank you.